First time I was like, theater is amazing, was when I saw Footloose on Broadway. And I had been dancing at the time, and I was like, wait, you can sing and act and dance at the same time? Like, sign me up. So I signed up for everything that was like theater. I did theater my whole life. I'm the definition of like a theater nerd is truly like eat, sleep, breathe theater. I did theater in high school. I was the ITS president.
Oh goodness. Well, I think the most important thing is that I was a Dreyfus student. So I was at Dreyfus from 2007 to 2011 when I graduated. I was a theater major. And so that kind of started my huge love for theater. It got me to college auditions.
So I went back to Penn State for the end of my senior year, and then I like freaked out because I was like, I'm gonna have to pay my loans. And I was like, I can't move to New York. So I was like, let me move home and like let me figure out my life. And I was auditioning for stuff in South Florida and trying to do what I like wanted to do the thing. And I had like all of these jobs, and I was like opening a cheesecake factory in Pembroke Pines, Florida. And I got a phone call so I got a phone call about there needed to be a theater teacher at the middle school that I went to.
Oh.
And I was like, well, that's interesting because like I'll have money. Like I don't have to work 15 jobs. Like I can work one job and I get to do theater. So it's like I still get to do what I want to do all day. And then like I was like, okay, try it, you know?
Yeah.
And so I tried it. It was a disaster.
Oh.
I was so unhappy with middle school, and like it was just not the age for me.
Yeah.
Like I cannot vibe. Like I just don't vibe with middle school students. Sorry for. I know everyone is one at some point, but like, that was just not my favorite group. And so I was like, okay, I tried this. This is just not going to work. But then I directed Thoroughly Modern Millie Junior. That was my favorite part, was like doing the production and like putting it together. And like I hated the classroom stuff and like the classroom management and like the day-to-day class stuff. But it's like you put me in rehearsal and like I feel like my strongest person, you know? And so I was like, you know, I am not doing this. Let's like, we tried it. It was nice to have a solid paycheck because at that point that was a lot of money to me. And so got to pay my loans, and I was like, I'm done. I'm gonna start doing theater. And I was actually doing theater as well as teaching because I was working with a theater company that is a really, like, it's pretty big now, called Slow Burn Theater. It's a regional theater in the Broward Center, but at that time it was just starting up. So they had rehearsals from like 6 to 10. And so I was like, oh great, school ends at 3, and then I could go to rehearsal from 6 to 10. And so I kind of was like a little burned out because I kept doing productions back to back to back. So I was like, don't teach anymore. I'm just gonna do performing.
I actually never wanted to be a teacher in the first place. So my mom is in education, and my mom was a teacher and then a principal, and then now she works in the district office. And so the question was always when I was growing up, when are you gonna be a teacher? And I was like, never, because you know, we never want to do what our moms do. We always want to do our own thing. And when I came home from New York, it was a complete accident that I got into teaching. I had to fill in for somebody who unfortunately passed away, sort of out of nowhere, and it was somebody that I knew and was really close to. And so they came to me and said, hey, you're in town, you have a theater degree, like, let's make this happen. And I was like, okay, I could use health insurance for 3 months, let's do it. And then I spent a week in the classroom and I was like, wait a second, I'm obsessed with this. It was a really difficult transition from middle school to high school, but in a good way, because it started to challenge me in ways that I hadn't been challenged at the middle school level. Because the middle school level, I was teaching very basic stuff, and when I got here, it opened up the things that I was able to teach, and now I have students who are older and who are a little bit more connected. So I was able to open up my scope a little bit more, and that was challenging to go from what I would consider an easier curriculum to something more like college related. But that was also really exciting. It was really nice to have to let go, or to get to let go of a lot of the classroom management. I don't have to have signs up in my acting classes that tell you how to behave in every situation like I did in middle school. It is nice to not have screaming 12-year-olds in my face every day. That's lovely. So that transition to a more mature group of students was really nice for me. I loved my middle schoolers. I loved connecting with them. But I think working with the high schoolers, I often feel like I'm working with a professional theater company. Y'all are just a young professional theater company. So that's been a really exciting transition, and it's opened up my scope a lot, which again was challenging, but at the same time really exciting.
Felt the like want to go back into the classroom. Like I missed the classroom. I was like, I like that environment. And so, but I had said to myself that I was not going to go back to a school that wasn't a performing arts high school. And like I grew up in the area, and so like I had known about Dreyfus, like I knew about like Douglas Anderson Performing Arts High School. Like there was a short list of schools, and so I graduated from grad school and I got married the next year. And that year I sort of took to be like, what am I doing? Am I really gonna do it? Am I gonna go back? So I worked a lot. I did a lot of theater at the Hippodrome that was in Gainesville. I did some theater in Orlando. I got to do a professional show. I went back to Slowburn, and I actually got to do Legally Blonde with my sister, because my sister is also an actress. And so that was like that was a highlight of like my theatrical life, was just like being able to be on stage with my sister. And then I saw the Dreyfus job was open. There were 2 acting teachers that were open a year. And so I was like, I was like working when I wasn't doing a show and I wasn't like figuring out my life. I was like substitute teaching at my husband's school. And I literally would just sit there and apply for jobs. Like, cause I also was adjuncting too, but like, I was like so sick of I was like adjuncting. I was like the house manager. I worked at, like, I was a substitute teacher, and I was like, I have so many jobs and I'm not making any money. Like, and it was exhausting. And I really was kind of overacting at that point. Then I applied for Dreyfus and I got the job. I did like the job interview in the like TA office at the college that I was adjuncting at, because like it was right after my class, and I like sat in the thing and like Skyped. And that was 5 years ago.
I think my relationship with Mrs. Leljedal has really affected my time here at Dreyfus. We came in together. We used to actually share this office space together. We used to call it the dorm. That's how we ended up collaborating together on Lost Girl and Shakespeare in Love. So we've worked a lot together, and she's influenced me a lot, and I've learned a lot from her.
I think, yeah, that was that year. We like leads us to Lost Girl, where I feel like was when we really got to collaborate for the first time. And so I had watched Miss Whetsell's class, and I saw how like wonderful she was with movement work, and I knew I was not very good at movement work, and so I saw a lot of movement work and visual images, and like I saw in the script when I read it, and I was like, you have to help. It was just a really wonderful experience, because we had communicated so much in the dorm when we were like when we were in our room together. So it was really nice to collaborate on a project and like be able to be like, here, just create something. And then like it was a really exciting time. And then we collaborated on Shakespeare in Love as well, because I knew I needed help with the Shakespeare, and Savannah is an excellent Shakespearean teacher. So we've been able to collaborate like on like in an artist level as well.
Of man's first disobedience, and the fruit of that forbidden tree whose mortal taste brought death into the...
Much fear there is in the human that is watching you.
There's a moment later where I wrote a note where I want to use that for Zeppelin. Like, I think you can bang on as if it were in front of you, not above you, but like I know he's above you. Right. But I think there is a moment where we can use that physically. But having a monkey moment.
Having a monkey moment. And yeah, there's so much difference between you being here and here. It's like, just...
It really is. It's amazing how much that changes your like whole vibe.
Yeah.
All right. From where? We perform, we break typewriters?
That sounds good.
Now you're over here. So why don't you stay
I have anxiety disorders, so I deal with a lot of anxiety just on a daily basis, and you know, we never stop. So it's from one show to the next, and when we're on production, you know, these are like 10-hour days, so we want to give our all to our classes, and then we want to give all in rehearsal. So if you're not super prepared, you end up really tired, and even if you are super prepared, you end up really tired and exhausted, and you have to lean on, you know, your other faculty members to sometimes pick up the slack.
Say we did baby with the bathwater last year.
Too much light makes the baby
Too
look
much
light.
light, too many babies. But like,
babies.
so like, we said this last year, and I think there's more of it, but there still needs to be more. Is some days like the day just like sort of keeps going, and like one thing and then the next thing, and it never really stops. Did I eat lunch? And like, it's like, no, I didn't, because I didn't stop because I had a meeting during lunch, or I was coaching a piece during lunch, or I had to go give a check request at lunch. So it's like figuring out how to manage it, which like is a lot.
But for the amount of hours we work, like we teach all day and then we go into rehearsal, and then the hours that we work like for tech and all of that, we really don't get paid for those hours, really at all. We get a small stipend so one time I did the math, working on Pride and Prejudice, I did the math, I put all the hours in that I did, and then I compared it to my salary and divided my salary to find my hourly rate, found my hourly rate for those hours, compared it to the stipend. It's off by over 10,000. 100%. If I were a judge, I would tell you. We do get some mild help with school supplies. We get a couple $100s a year, but teachers do pay for all of their own school supplies. So after that $300 is up, the rest of it has to be ours. So if I want folders for my plays in theater history, if I want to buy plays for my play library, if I want to buy, you know, we do those fun projects in theater history with the art supplies and all that. I spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on my classroom and my students' projects, which is a lot to wrap your brain around. Luckily this year our wish list clearing has been great. So the parents have bought a lot of stuff for us this year, but it's still coming out of somebody's pocket. That is not the state.
And how do you lead a group of not just teachers, but adults as well, and foster like collaboration and conversations, and trying to get through some like stuff that maybe people don't agree about, and like while still trying to like manage the budget and make sure we don't overspend things, and trying to then have a good show. But like, it's a lot of stuff that is like beyond the classroom, but I do enjoy it. I do on some days.
But yeah, it does get frustrating, it gets hard, it gets stressful. It tends to all be worth it in the end. I love districts because it is just, for me, it's just walking around and watching you guys perform, and that is one of my favorite things to do. So I thought all the performances were great. Every single thing that I saw was over the top wonderful. And to see them go perform, put the work in, win the superior, win the excellent, it's really nice to bring us all together as a troupe so that we all understand that like we are valuable in this place, and just because we might not get the lead in Mamma Mia or the lead in 12th Night doesn't mean that we are not artists and we're not valuable.
We just got to know each other like as colleagues, and also like as artists, and then like and friends as well, because it was really nice to have someone that was also going through the first year, but had a little bit more knowledge because was a student, so she like knew where the green room was, where I didn't know where the green room was.
And so we had like a lot of time to like share ideas and talk about what we used to like affectionately call our 5-year plan, and now it's year 5, and I would say about like 50% of our 5-year plan has happened, which is nice.
Coming to Dreyfus is like my dream job, because like when I worked at the high school, I had a great time, but it was a great time with like a core of probably like 15 kids. And like I spent all day with every single class not being kids that love theater, and not being kids that appreciate it as much as like every single kid that comes here. They have a different level of it, but it's just a different species. And I'm like, wow, this is my place. This is what I want to do.
At this point in my life, I certainly know that there's another chapter waiting somewhere down the road where I'm not a teacher, at least not a high school teacher at Dreyfus School of the Arts. I don't know when that is. I don't know where that is, because giving this up is going to be incredibly, incredibly difficult. And I've thought about it because I would love to get my master's degree at some point, but every time I think about applying, I go, oh, I can't leave this class, or I can't leave this year, I've got to do this show, and then I want to be here for this group growing up, so I keep putting it off and putting it off. I've always been a part of the Dreyfus community ever since I was a kid, and coming back into this building was like a big moment for me, and it's always just been like everything's been a big moment for me moving through this job that I've been in for the past 5 years, 4 years, however long it's been. But the students are really what makes it special, and the community of teachers and you all and the administration. I think I've learned more about myself as like a teacher and a person and a performer from my students who are currently here and who have grown up and graduated. I've learned more about like my compassion and my patience. I've accessed those things that I never thought I would have. I found a lot of love here, and I try to keep it alive with every class that comes through. It's hard to let you all go, but it's also wonderful to watch you go off into the world prepared. And the community has really just made me feel at home and given me, like, not to get too sappy or like unprofessional, but it's given me a place where I feel like I'm home too.